Welcome to our session today. The topic that we have is the Waterfall Mind. And I often think how the mind is a little bit like a river. It has the thoughts that are constantly flowing, and they never stop. And actually that's fine, just like the heartbeat doesn't stop, or when it stops, then that's it for the body. And so the same thing for the mind is that the mind, like a river, needs to continue flowing. Sometimes the water of the river can be filled with sediments, so it can be quite slow moving. Other times it can be very deep. And they say still waters run deep, and that's actually a very beautiful saying, because I remember one time I was in Scotland, and we were out for a walk in the woods in central Scotland, and there was this stream, and they call it a burn. And in this stream, there was one part where the water was quite dark, so the rest of it, you could see the basin and, the rocks and the pebbles and stones, but this part you couldn't. And actually, the way that the water was moving looked like it wasn't moving. And in fact, it was quite clear how that part was really actually very deep. And so it's interesting how when the mind is still, then it's actually possible to go very deep into the significance, or into the experience, or into the meaning of different things. And so the saying, still waters run deep, is very beautiful. And so the mind, like a river, could be filled with sediments, or it could be filled with pollution, even, after it passes a city. It naturally accumulates anything that's thrown in, and it just carries it away. And so sometimes our mind is a little bit like that. We just accept the things that come towards us, or that people throw in our direction or into us. And so we end up with waters that are very murky and not really very, and maybe smelly and and not very pleasant at all. Other rivers, other times the river of our mind can be very clean and filled with a lot of minerals and a lot of substances that can help give strength and reinforce our basic internal systems. So I love this analogy of the mind as a river, and then to take that further, as a waterfall. So often rivers come to a point where they become a waterfall, and that is like, whatever is the way the land is. So whether it's soft material as the riverbed, or whether it's hard rock, and so all of these things will determine the phenomena of a waterfall. And I think waterfalls are fascinating for many people. And just sometimes even seeing a picture, like of the Niagara Falls, or maybe, of other wonderful waterfalls, large, small, wide, narrow, tall, the ones that are, whatever it is, even a little one, like the one on the Tiber, there's a little waterfall, but it's still fascinating. And they talk about negative ions, IONS, which as I'm sure you probably know, that they are basically molecules of oxygen that contain extra oxygen, so an extra charge of oxygen. And this just simply what it does for our body is that it increases the flow of oxygen to our brain, which is so good for us, you know, which helps us to feel alert and present and even cheerful, you know, to be in good spirits. And so this is one of the words where negative ions is actually something very good. You know? So, and of course, the opposite is also true, where there's closed rooms or a lot of electromagnetic fields, Wi-Fi, where we're exposed for too long to these to this energy. It's actually they are positive ions because they lose a little part of the oxygen, and so they tend to make us feel sluggish and drowsy and maybe even feel a bit down. And so that's why actually waterfalls in fact are something really, really good for us. And I think it's fascinating, not just for the health and the amazement of this phenomena, but it's also the analogy of it all, you know, which I find really inspiring, of how it's how the water in a sense becomes transformed. So at the top of the waterfall, the water doesn't have those extra negative ions, but it's in the falling that they accumulate that, and they accumulate this power, basically this force in a sense, that when the water reaches the ground, it has this amazing impact, so much so that it leaves the impression, and it can erode the earth or create a little cave behind it eventually. And so there's this transformation process that is going on. And I sometimes think that it's a little bit like there are moments in life when we might need to let go of even a whole current, or which is like often our beliefs or thought patterns or ideas, or something that we've decided, a direction that we've decided. Somehow we might need to let go of it, because often things will happen in the drama of life that say, no, that's what you want, but I'm going in another direction. And so it's very tempting to resist that, because I know what I want, and this is what I'm doing, and this is where I'm going. However, sometimes it's really worthwhile to just notice in a sense, the benevolence of whatever it is that's actually happening, that may easily be and is likely to be out of my control. So even within that, of course, we need to make conscious choices and be aware of our intentions. But what I find is really useful is in the letting go of what I am, in a sense, desperately holding on to, something that is wanting to go, that it's time for it to go. But I want something to go in a certain way. And I keep fighting to hold on to it. So I just wanted to stop there and just ask this question, maybe for all of us to reflect on. to just going back to this analogy of the waterfall, and I thought we would do just a series of different moments of reflection, and then sharing as whoever would like to. So the first really very simple question is, what qualities does a waterfall represent for you? So just like for me, one of the main ones is this transformation, and there's many, many others. But what is it? What would be 1, 2, 3 or more qualities that the phenomena of a waterfall would represent for you? So, so if anyone would like to share immediately, most welcome. Otherwise, we can take some time to reflect. So yes, Watsi, please do go ahead.
I think, Radha, the first thing I think of, we have a beautiful waterfall in Zimbabwe. That's one of the 7 wonders of the world, the Great Zimbabwe. And one of the things that it does is it's actually called the spirit that thunders, right? And it thunders as it, because it only, when in the dry season, there's a trickle or nothing, right? It's almost, you can see the rocks and it's completely sort of very few trickles coming down. And then when it's the rainy season and the Zambezi River is full, it's called the smoke that thunders. It releases, right? It goes over. So release is one of the things that comes to mind. And it's a huge waterfall, and there's mist. So there's a sort of a forest next to it. That's a natural forest because of the spray of the waterfall. And it almost releases, when it releases and goes over, it looks like smoke, that's coming over. So I think the big thing for me is release, especially when you're full, right? And maybe you're full of emotion, or you're really, really full of just pent up feelings. That's one of the reasons why anger is such a release, right? Because you've been holding everything in, and then it releases. So for me, it's release, I think.
Thank you. Wonderful. That's really beautiful, Watsi. And I'm seeing some more comments here. So from Dominique, strength of nature, strength, beauty, this is all those, clarity of the water most of the time. Power, says Rhoda. And then again, all those fluidity, flexibility as it goes from one place to the other, and it continues the journey, its journey. And Licia, balance between strength and vulnerability. That's very beautiful. Yes. Yes, very much. The analogy of release is very beautiful. And so, yeah, I mean, these are very, very, I think, relevant and powerful associations with this phenomena. And I think one of the other ones that comes to my mind is courage. And so when we think about, in a sense, it's like jumping off the cliff, isn't it? or flying off the cliff. And so when you jump, you fly, and maybe a little bit like the mist that comes off it. There's a part of it that flies and nurtures and spreads its very, very beautiful and nourishing energy to create a whole forest, to sustain a whole forest. And so that's really a very, very powerful analogy. And so, and this thing of, in a sense, allowing ourselves to move into that release, I think is one of the healing moments. Because the worst thing is this thing of, which maybe a lot of us have learned and been taught to hold things back and hold things in, and and not express and not show or demonstrate. And so it's, which can be very damaging for the soul and the body. And certainly for me, it's one of the things that I'm learning about is what it means, and connected with anger, to be able to understand anger and understand how to express it in a way, in a way that is healthy, and not damaging for relationships, for the body, because often we know the very negative effects of constant expression of anger, which doesn't actually really, in a sense, release anything. Maybe immediately it does, but it just means that we get better at getting angry. and so it's very much something to learn about, and an interesting subject. And another thing, is enthusiasm. That somehow this, in a sense, a kind of like a euphoria, an internal euphoria of not just from the release, but from a realization about something. And I'm sure you might have had this experience where you've suddenly connected two things, or you've suddenly made sense of something, and it just brings this, like a spiritual intoxication, sometimes we call it, and and this euphoria of wow, this is amazing. I never thought about it like that. I never connected. Like recently, I was communicating with someone about anger, actually, and they were saying how, well, it's either anger or it's contentment. And so I'm either in one space or I'm in the other. If there's dissatisfaction, then there's likely to be some condition of anger or another. And somehow I had never connected contentment and anger as, in a sense, complementary opposites. I don't know if that makes sense, but it's very interesting to come to that point where we generate that enthusiasm, and whether it's through realization or through letting go or through letting things flow, through watching, through, in a sense, a kind of a surrender. And so yes, says Anna, the musicality of the cascade is healing and energizing and soothing. Yes, absolutely. So even though it might seem like a thunder, but somehow, because it's in context, because it's in it where it's in the right place at the right time at the right moment, so somehow that the musicality is really what it is, and so that's very beautiful. Thank you, Anna. Another thing is the constancy, and I guess not all waterfalls are constant. A little bit like how Wadzi was describing, was that some of the rivers dry up, and so there's not much of a waterfall then. But in others there is this, or even just in the rivers that are flowing. And I look at the Tiber, and sometimes it's just so amazing, just this fact of this constant flow. The wonder of nature, of course, in this case. On an internal level, on a spiritual level, it's, with the analogy, shall we say, is about, in a sense, identifying what is that constant factor within the self that is like a stabilizing factor. So it might be a particular strength that I have. It might be something that maybe is like a gift that I have, that when I remember, when I think about it, it's actually always there, but it's very easy to forget about it. And so when I remember it, it's as if it becomes present and available to me. You know? So yes, so the constant. So yes, says Aldous, how true. There is either anger or contentment. The two cannot exist at the same time, and the choice is ours. That's right. And I think it's a whole subject, really, this thing of anger or contentment, and maybe at some point, when I've discovered a bit more about it, we can look at that and see, because I think it's really being able to transform the energy of dissatisfaction in a way that really does transform it and doesn't just end up suppressing it. Because it's too easy to just suppress it or ignore it or somehow hope that it'll go away, or some feeling, some bad mood, some feeling down. And so in fact, it's really important to learn how to really acknowledge, accept, and transform, and then maybe let go, release. So what I thought we could do now is to choose one of these qualities. So, even if you haven't shared, it doesn't matter. I hope one or the other quality that you identify, that the waterfall represents for you, just choose one of them. So it could be, what has been shared of power or courage or soothing, energizing, flexibility, flowing, balance, strength, vulnerability. So many qualities have come up. You can look up and down the chat as well. So I want to ask you to choose one of them, and we're going to do a little reflective exercise now, to say, how does this quality manifest itself in my life in this moment? So in my thinking, in my attitude, in my behavior, how do I see it? How do I notice it? Where and when, in which moments does it make its presence felt? Or do I use it? Do I apply it? So we'll just take a moment. I will put up a nice picture of a waterfall and maybe a little bit of music, and we'll reflect on this question, and actually maybe the second question as well, and we can do both of them together, and I will put them in the chat as well, so it's easy to read them again. So the first question is, how does this quality manifest itself in my life, in my thinking or my attitude or my behavior, or in my relationships? And then the second part of that is, where would I like this quality to be more present for me? So we might love this quality, but feel like it's a little bit missing, that it's there in this area, but I really would love this quality to be present also in this area, in this relationship, in these moments. And so just to reflect on that. And a useful thing to start off is just to tune into the energy of that quality. So once you've identified which quality you're going to choose or focus on, just take a moment to tune in to the energy, to the living force of that quality. So to the resonance, to the frequency of that quality. What does it feel like to be that, to be surrounded by the energy of that quality? Okay, so I hope that's Okay, and so we'll spend maybe up to about 10 minutes, if that's okay with everyone, and then we can share, any insights or anything that anyone would like after that. So. another minute, and we can then come back together. Okay, so from these two questions of how does this quality manifest itself in my life, and where would I like this quality to be more present for me? So anyone who'd like to share anything from that, or from the process, or something that came up for you that you noticed, even as you were thinking about that or reflecting on that. So any feelings that you had whilst you were doing it. So I see here Aldous is saying that the quality was balance between strength and flexibility. Notice that I have both qualities, but not yet in the area that I would wish for, namely in relationship and connection with others. At the moment, it is either strength that I put in or flexibility, and that creates some imbalance in the connections. Yeah, that's a very good observation. Thank you. All this. Please, Watsi.
I continued on my thought process around release. And the thing that I reflected on was, as soon as I identify something that I want to release, I get this almost itchy feeling to release it immediately, you know, to create the space, to release, to let it go. And I think sometimes it's almost as if I need to learn patience, you know, because some things cannot be released as quickly as necessary. For example, I've just identified that my old couch needs to go, you know, and now I'm like, can somebody just come and collect it? And, you know, can it be gone? But, you know, these things take time. I need to,
Yes.
for the people who come around the neighborhood to come around and shout, and then they can come in and collect the couch. But it's this need that, oh no, I can create this space, and I'm already thinking about what I want to do with the space after releasing, you know. So I think my reflection after was the patience and the feeling I had when I was journaling, because I just chose to free write when you said this 10 minutes. I had this aha moment of, as I write, that it's all in my head. You know, I had this feeling that I'm the miracle I'm looking for. It's all there. I just need to bring it out.
Wow. That's amazing. That's a really beautiful insight, actually, about this thing of patience and of patience and the balance, shall we say, of patience and release. That's amazing. Really beautiful. Thank you. Anything else? Here we go. Dominique says, strength is the quality that manifests in me when I do not allow my ego to express itself, but I let go instead. I would like to cultivate it more as it brings stability in me. It helps me to remain stable and able to transform feelings of dissatisfaction and anger into feelings of compassion, benevolence, and love. The strength of keeping the energy of beauty flowing inside me at any moment. Yeah, that's beautiful. And so that's the real balance between this strength and compassion or gentleness and benevolence and love, and where the ego is not mixed in there. Yeah. Wonderful. Great. Very beautiful insights. And I mean, I think these are things to continue. And this, what Vansi was saying, this journaling or this reflective writing is really very, very powerful in just how things that I never thought of and couldn't think about by just thinking somehow come up, and it's an amazing connection. And so it says, and I noticed the quality of renewal and vitality. And I would like the cleansing element to help purification. Beautiful. So this renewal and vitality. There's some amazing balances and combinations that I would certainly never have put together. So thank you. To be more present. Wow. Very beautiful. Great. So what I thought at this moment is that we can have a meditation, a guided meditation now. And if you have other things that you'd like to share or write or reflect, then please do feel free to write in the chat. And before we have the meditation, I wanted to read a little piece by Dadi Janki, and it's called Inspiration. So it seemed somehow very apt for the analogy of the waterfall. So, and it somehow, just looking at it again, it somehow contains a lot of the qualities that have come up, from a lot of us together. So how can we serve those around us? By making our lives inspirational and interacting with tact and wisdom. Even if there isn't the chance for actual conversation, we can learn to take in each other's presence in a positive way, homing in on their goodness and making their specialities our own. This creates an atmosphere of love and regard, which makes it easy to then share spiritual experiences. We could be so cheerful and our lives such examples that they say, here is an angel. So this is, in fact, I think there's one waterfall called the Angel Falls somewhere in South America. So yes, so I see a few more comments here. So says Anna, yes, if you have not seen the Cascades of Eur, they are amazing. Okay, no, I don't think I have actually. So would like to do that, definitely. So these are, yes, beautiful reflections. Great, thank you very much. So, okay, so we'll now have our meditation, and I will again share the picture of the waterfall. And I don't know where this is, but it was one of the ones that, you get on the Pixar Bay. So someone very kindly put it up and has offered it to the world. So, okay, so find a comfortable position. Take a deep breath. And feel all the energy settling down. The physical energies, as well as the energy of the mind. As the body relaxes, I, the living being, become fully present. And as I see this image of the waterfall, I visualize myself as this wonderful river, the smooth waters above the fall. And then coming to the edge and release, watching the volumes of water tumbling down, becoming energized, like many thoughts that flow through my mind, becoming filled with the sparkle of awareness, of my true identity. And so I can release the need to be something else, that which I am not. I don't need to hold on to anything, because my true identity is whole and complete. So as this sparkle fills every thought, my whole being becomes energized with strength, benevolence, good wishes and pure feelings. Courage and clarity. So much compassion and love. power and transformation. Balanced with the humility of patience and vulnerability. Surrender to the flow of life. And I can feel my mind breathing in this extra life energy, like extra oxygen for the body. I stay for a moment, enjoying, radiating. And as I breathe in and out, I can feel the energy of strength and peace flowing through my being. And very gently, I begin to guide my attention little by little to my physical surroundings, to this dimension of time and space. And I carry with me this inner treasure store of spiritual power and love, ready to distribute, to multiply, and to use in my thoughts and interactions. Thank you. So thank you very much for your participation, your sharing, very beautiful, very powerful, and your presence most of all. Have a have a wonderful afternoon. We'll see
Thank
you
you,
again
Mother.
next time.